Alrighty everyone, welcome back. It is now October 29th of 2025, and ever since the assassination of Charlie Kirk and the most recent No Kings protest, there is no doubt about it that we have seen a major uptick in the number of celebrities that represent Hollywood, that represent both the film and music industries, really just going on and on by politicizing the whole Charlie Kirk situation and using it as a way to advance their anti-Trump narrative that has become also exhausting for so many fans out there of many of these actors that are now walking away in droves. This is Mike Zero. Subscribe if you're new and like this video to see future updates. You can also follow me at Mike01. I thank you also very much for the great and kind support. Now, there's also a very serious problem with the media. For example, when we're looking at ABC, alright, we know that ABC, who handles Jimmy Kimmel Live, Good Morning America, and The View, which is the main subject for today, The View is probably one of the most mishandled programs out there and the most unorganized programs out there, and based on how Bob Iger just uses it as a way to push political talking heads, how they have no idea what they're doing right now regardless of the erratic ratings going on for The View, and how the hosts are to blame as well, Joy Behar, Sunny Hostin, and Whoopi Goldberg. Now, we already talked about this briefly a couple of days ago about what led to their suspension for a series of episodes that are to be taped in November of this year, and that all had a lot to do with a question and answer, a Q&A session after a most recent taping took place in front of a live audience. What's interesting here, though, has a lot more to do with overall emerging details coming out of that. Now, we know that there's a lot of things going on when it comes to Joy Behar and Sunny Hostin in particular, when it comes to what happened to them by ABC producers and executives, and rightfully so. Now, with Hollywood dealing with tons of backlash from the general public over celebrities who represent multiple studios that decided to mock or politicize Charlie Kirk's assassination and engaging in the No Kings protests, one major development going on now involves more to do with the hosts of The View and new details over their suspension from a series of episodes, like I said before, for November of this year after they were caught in the middle of swearing at a live audience behind the scenes during a Q&A session. Now, a crucial update to this entire situation now involves how, as it turns out, additional questions were asked during this Q&A that led to Sunny, Whoopi, and Joy to getting suspended. Now, one of which involves how an additional audience member questioned Joy Behar, for example, about The View's ratings failing ABC and what they are looking to do to improve their ratings, essentially putting Joy Behar on the spot about how unpopular the show has become. Now, Joy snapped at the audience member by stating, "You don't have the right effing position to ask me a question like that. How dare you?" When Joy snapped at the audience member, the microphone was muted by ABC producers at the time for the Q&A that took place after the taping of one of the more recent episodes that was considered to be an exclusive interaction with the host of The View. Surprisingly, another audience member who raised his microphone next also asked Joy Behar a question about her opinion on her thoughts of Jesse Waters of Fox News, mocking Joy on, of course, and mocking her on one of the most recent episodes for Fox News' The Five. Now, Joy Behar replied with another snarky response where she whispered into the microphone, "Get this SOB away from the microphone, please." It turns out that these two additional comments from Joy Behar during the Q&A were considered to be the tipping point and to be the very moment that ABC producers decided to suspend both Sunny Hostin and Joy Behar from dropping F-bombs and cursing at the audience over direct questions. Joy Behar will officially be suspended from a total of, get this, 7 episodes for the month of November, on and off, and Sunny Hostin will be suspended from a total of 5 episodes for November, on and off as well, which will be the reason why their seat will be either empty for November or replaced by a different host for those episodes to step in for the time being. Now, ABC producers and executives already demanded Disney executives and even CEO Bob Iger to never entertain the idea of a Q&A session again after the taping of a show takes place, since it got way too out of hand for them now that more and more Republicans and Trump supporters, surprisingly, are showing up for tapings of The View for entertainment purposes to get a different experience of what The View is like behind the scenes and during a taping. In addition to all of this, it turns out that most most of the questions that were given to Sonny and Joy were mostly positive comments, with a handful of direct comments that led to both Joy, Sonny, and Whoopie snapping at the audience that got them ultimately suspended. And now ABC executives are already in active damage control mode behind the scenes to recover from what happened, as less attendees have been coming to the show ever since through, of course, word of mouth. Now guys, let me just say one thing about The View. Now, not only are they dealing with a ratings failure across the board week by week, but we also know that at the same exact time, they are actually losing a lot of attendees. Now, regardless, a lot of these shows, pretty much all of these shows, by the way, whether it's morning shows or late night television shows, doesn't matter. They're all free for the most part. You can sign up, go ahead, watch those shows, take part in the audience and watch it for free. Even though they are free tickets, they are actually losing the number of attendees. That's why you're seeing a lot of empty seats lately. That's why they're dealing with a lot of empty seats when it comes to shows like The View. Specific episodes, you have to really keep an eye out. You'll see mostly on the top left portion or the top right portion, there's a large chunk of seats that are just flat out empty. And it never used to be like that years ago. And it's a progressive thing. It keeps happening on and off. But we know one thing about Joy Behar, Sonny Hostin, and Whoopi Goldberg right now is that they are the sole individuals to blame as to why this show is only getting worse. And I can only imagine why Disney would want to keep such a thing on the air. It's pretty much only for Bob Iger to push political talking heads and to keep their, Disney agenda on full display for ABC. That's why Jimmy Kimmel never dealt with any major consequences. He also dealt with a very brief suspension. And even though what Joy and Sonny are dealing with is going to be even less, severe than what Jimmy got, because it's going to be a handful of episodes throughout November, throughout an entire month on and off. We know one thing about this, though, is that the fact that they are trying to, or they are actually engaging in full-on conversations right now of revamping The View for 2027. We talked about this. A lot of investors, a lot of those that invest in the Walt Disney Company are actually very unhappy with the way things are being handled over at ABC. And that's why Bob Iger, since he does plan to step down by 2026, he wants to grandfather in plans for how he visions The View to become by 2027. Now, look, that could either be for better or worse, who knows. Regardless, they do want to change things up, either with new hosts coming on board, or a brand new set, or a mixture of both there. But again, like I've said before in the past, when you have Joy Behar swearing at the audience, when you have Sonny Hostin doing the same exact thing as well, that just goes to show you that they have a very thin skin when it comes to comments that are putting them on full display, putting them on the spot, putting them in the hot seat, if you will, and really just putting them in a very, complex situation. That's when they get very defensive, right? Never did they ever expect a lot of, attendees to come on board that hold a different political opinion to actually engage in this Q&A session. That's ultimately why they were so shocked about it. But overall, I would like to hear what you all have to say about this below in the comments, and if you guys did enjoy the content for today, make sure to drop a thumbs up on this video to support the channel, and I will catch you guys later.